Hare Krishna, everybody, and welcome to another session of Prabhupada Memoirs. And I am so thrilled that I am speaking today to one of Srila Prabhupada's spiritual daughters. She started her life in spiritual life at the age of 16, and you can see her right now, Her Grace Rukmini Prabhu. She is one person that has been practicing Krishna consciousness for 51 years. And she is an activist and interfaith dialogue and women's spiritual empowerment ambassador. She is the founder of Urban Devi and to inspire women of the 21st century in their devotional lives. And later on, we'll be talking a bit about urvidevi.com and some of the retreats that are coming on soon. So please do not tune away. So without further ado, let's welcome Her Grace Rukmini Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I'd like to begin with a few prayers.
Please.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Vyananjana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being on today.
Thank you so much.
I for the audience, I mentioned at the start, you started your spiritual life at the tender age of 16. Some of us haven't even left high school, and you took it so serious. And you are a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada. And, when we were talking, I found so inspiring some of the stories that you were telling us about. So I'm wondering, to help our audience, and we've got about 332 of you online right now on the different platforms, to help our audience, I want to start right from the beginning with when I believe it was San Francisco, where your spiritual life started. So how did that begin? How did it happen?
Well, I walked into the San Francisco temple, which was the first San Francisco temple on Frederick Street. I walked in with a girlfriend of mine.
Yeah.
And I was looking around, and there were a lot of devotees there. It was a Saturday lunchtime, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was the first one to speak to me. He was my Vartma Pradakshika guru. He took me under his wing, and so many stories, but it was an amazing temple. He was there. Vishnu Jan, future Swami, was there. Jai Pataka, future Swami, was there. All the six who went to London, Mukunda, Janaki, Shamsundar, Malati, Gurdas Yamuna, and Makanlal, future Swami, Madhu Visa, who went to Australia. So it was a very powerful chakra of a temple.
Wow. And that was, we're talking about, what year was this?
1968. 1968.
This is
and Tamal Krishna took me around to see each of the paintings on the walls. And when I saw the painting of Lord Nrsingadev, I said, "Oh, that's horrible." And he looked at me like I was crazy. He said, "That is Lord Nrsingadev. All the devotees love Lord Nrsingadev."
Wow.
So
even I got scared when I saw Nrsingadev first, especially when you got the claws coming in and the guts are coming out. And I was like, wow, this is something else. So I'm sure all of the devotees now we got 440 of them on right now, will be feeling this the same as you did. So you had Tamal Krishna Goswami, who, really helped to guide you. And after that, when you settled in, and you were only at San Francisco temple for about 2 weeks, I think it was.
Yeah, I first walked into the temple and then went to Montreal. I was initiated 2 weeks after first walking into the temple. So that was kind of the style then. And yeah, it was a very powerful experience to be able to go to Montreal to meet Srila Prabhupada with the 6 who were on their way to London to open the London temple.
Now this comes on to something, because you were in San Francisco, and of course, Srila Prabhupada was in Montreal in Canada at this time, and we'll come into that story.
Right.
But let's just delve into that a bit, because you were given some instructions. And when we say the 6 here, everybody, I refer to them, because I'm in the UK, I refer to them as the Super 6. And this is Malati Prabhu, this is Sham Sundar Prabhu, and their daughter Saraswati. So really Super 6 and a half, because she was just very small. Mukunda Goswami, Janaki Prabhu, Yamuna Prabhu, and Guru Das Prabhu as well. So we had all these 6, but can we know how did that happen? Because I believe from San Francisco you were traveling up to Canada with these guys, if I'm correct.
So what happened was Tamal Krishna, who wasn't a Swami, he'd just been initiated a few months before himself. He wasn't even shaved up yet. And he told me, you know, there's not going to be good association for you here in San Francisco after these 6 leave. So you should either go with them to London or you should go to Boston. I was interested in art. So he was advising me to go. They were painting for Prabhupada's books in Boston. So I went to Boston after being in Montreal and New York. So, yeah.
So that was Boston. So now, but you're traveling up to Canada with the 6, correct? To Montreal.
Yes.
So now you're in Montreal. Is that the first time you met Srila Prabhupada in person?
Yes. So Prabhupada was staying in a little rented house just near McGill University, and we ran over with bare feet, and there were big sharp rocks, and we all ran across the big sharp rocks on the driveway in so much joy on our way to see Srila Prabhupada. And when we came in, I have to honestly say that Srila Prabhupada appeared to be in a Brahmajyoti effulgence. He was completely surrounded by a huge effulgence, and the devotees said, I think it was Yamuna Devi said, "This is Wendy, and she's only 16 years old, and she wants to become your disciple." And Prabhupada, he said, "Oh, but with so much compassion, but where are your parents?" Which was so compassionate, you know, the antithesis of, you know, the stereotype of what someone might think of a manipulative guru. He was so compassionate. And then it was very beautiful when we came in the room. He saw the baby Saraswati, who was just 3 months old at that time. He had advised Malati not to travel until the baby was 3 months old. So when he saw Saraswati, he said, "I dreamt of that child last night." And then later in the conversation, he said, "Yes, that very child." So it was almost as though Krishna was giving him a sign of the future beautiful pastimes that they would have together, Prabhupada and baby Saraswati. So that was a wonderful meeting. Yes. And Montreal was a very special, magical time. Srila Prabhupada was speaking from the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. And I'll tell some stories about that. Should I tell about my initiation?
Please, yes, because you know, you got there and then suddenly that's when it all happened. And you met Prabhupada for the first time. And this effulgence aspect that you're talking about, you know, some of the senior disciples, just as yourselves, we're hearing this. So it's not like only hearing it from one person. We've heard this, that Srila Prabhupada had this power, this effulgence about him, which you've also now confirmed, which is fantastic. And so leading up to your initiation, because right now you've just seen Srila Prabhupada, you're feeling very, how many days, because why was Srila Prabhupada in Montreal, if I could first?
There was difficulty getting a permanent US visa for Srila Prabhupada. So sometimes he would travel, but his permanent residence at that time was in Montreal. So devotees would come up to Montreal to see Srila Prabhupada, to have his darshan, to get his advice. And so he was in Montreal for quite a long time. And I mentioned your Guru Maharaj, Jatpataka Maharaj, who was also in San Francisco when I came. He came to Montreal, and he was the temple president there for a little while.
Yeah.
So, there's a little story about Jayapataka Maharaj. Maybe I can share that right now. So he used to chant japa very loudly, and he was disturbing all the devotees. He would chant such loud japa that everyone was complaining about him. And so Srila Prabhupada made everyone happy by advising him not to stop, but he told him, go, Montreal is on Mount Royal, right? So
Wow.
Prabhupada, which was right next to our temple, the temple was a converted bowling alley. And so Prabhupada told him to go chant up on the mountain so he wouldn't disturb the others. So he got to chant his loud japa, and everyone else was also satisfied.
Oh, bless! I've heard that. I've heard that from him as well. It's so nice. So you had this aspect. Now you're coming. Initiation was coming up. How did you feel? Because of course you're 16 years old. You're now world from at San Francisco, going to Canada. Actually it's another country. And then suddenly you've been told, oh, by the way, she's this is she wants to take initiation. Wendy wants to take initiation. How did this feel?
It was all magical. It was something I've been seeking my whole life and praying for my whole life. And the initiation was just a couple days after I arrived there. And so at the initiation, maybe because I was so young, Prabhupada was reminded of the story of Rukmini Devi, and
Yes.
he had never told that story before. So this was the first time he told that story. So he said, you are a beautiful girl, and Krishna can accept any number of beautiful girls. And he said, so he told the whole story of Rukmini, of Krishna kidnapping Rukmini. And then he said, so one day Krishna will kidnap you.
Oh.
Which was beautiful. And then he said again, you're a beautiful girl. It was like he was opening the heart, and then he injected the medicine. He said, so now become more beautiful within also. So, it was very, very profound the way he opened my heart in that way,
How many?
He didn't say, your heart is full of dirt, get it together, which is true. But he said, you're a beautiful girl, now become more beautiful within also. So this is a beautiful instruction for us, I think, for all of us in the way to share Krishna consciousness with people, validate them and validate whatever abilities they have, and then open their heart and inject the medicine of Krishna consciousness.
This is what the one thing I found so inspiring. Just listen to that. Is this aspect of a swan that you get, that even in muddy waters, a swan can sift out the milk, the pure milk. And here Srila Prabhupada is showing us that even in situations when you want to speak in a certain way and you want to get a message across, always show compassion and love.
Yes.
And then the other person. I think that's now, even right now, it's so important in our society today with everything going on, that we have that type of mood as a Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So thank you for sharing.
Yes. And there were other beautiful stories, different exchanges in Montreal that I'd like to share. One of them was when one of the ladies asked a question, because again, I said Prabhupada was speaking from the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. So in Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, he was saying, my Lord, oh my Lord. And she asked a question at the end, well, how can we say my anything? If nothing is mine, how can we say my Lord? And Prabhupada was saying, no, we should always think Krishna is mine, and he is yours, and he is everyone's. And then he said, that's all. Krishna is mine, he is yours, he is everyone's. That's all. So that just seemed to be such a powerful, like a Mahavakya from Srila Prabhupada. Very, very beautiful instruction. And of course, this is a principle, this mamata is a principle in our tradition. And then another one of his talks, I asked him a question. I said, at that time we called him Swamiji. And I said, Swamiji, I fall so far away from you when you're not here. I just felt like every time I walked out of his presence that I just fell into lower consciousness. I said, I fall so far away from you when you're not here. And he was so touched, and he began to speak about Arjuna in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, how after Krishna left this world, Arjuna, all his power left him, and he was bereft. He wasn't even able to protect Krishna's wives, who were abducted by a group of cowherd men. And so and then Arjuna again remembered Krishna's instructions that Krishna gave to him in Bhagavad Gita. So he told me that, and he said that by remembering the spiritual master, he is always with you. So that was another very, very powerful exchange and instruction.
There's one person, Carmela Naidu. She's written what you just said. This is all getting quoted. So nice. Validate them, open their hearts, and then inject Krishna consciousness. What a wonderful mood. Thank you for sharing that point. I think that's so key here. Something for everyone to take away.
Actually, before you continue, just in case we don't have time for this story at the end, I thought maybe I'd tell this story at the end. It's not about a story that I heard personally, but I heard it personally from the devotee who Prabhupada spoke this to. He was a brand new devotee doing the service of guarding Prabhupada's house in New Vrindavan at night. And Prabhupada suddenly surprised him and walked in to the garage where he was doing his guarding. And he bowed down and offered his obeisances. And then he stood up and he said, "Srila Prabhupada, is there any service I can do for you?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes, you can go where I will not go." And he was so shocked because Prabhupada was going everywhere. Prabhupada was in New Vrindavan. He had just come from Texas, San Francisco. He was going to New York, London, Paris, Germany, India. And so he said, "But Prabhupada, where is it that you won't go?" And this is such an important instruction. The caller reminded me of this. He said, "Go to the future where Prabhupada would not go." He said, "Go to the future, and by the way you treat the people there, they will know how much Krishna loves them." So this is my most favorite story of Prabhupada. And I think this is the mood of preaching that we all should imbibe. By the way you treat the people there, they will know how much Krishna loves them.
So that's so nice. By the way we treat the people, that's how they'll know how much Krishna loves them. So it's directly through the individuals. This is, wow. Go to the future, he was saying. Srila Prabhupada was, he's such a amazing personality. Such an amazing Paramahamsa, the way he was able to even envisage the future, like you're just talking here. Some of this has probably not been heard before, so it's so nice that we're getting this chance. And one thing I'm very interested on now is also, we're still in Montreal, everybody. We're in Canada. It's coming to Initiation Day. How because like I know when like my initiation happened, I remember in Mayapur Dham it was really good. Second time it was not in Mayapur Dham, it was somewhere else. But like in this way, oh, by the way, remember the second time, I don't mean somewhere else, I'll just clarify. But like when you're first, at that time, did the first and second initiation happen together, or did they happen first, you did it there? And so was this your Harinam initiation or a second initiation?
It was Harinam initiation, and then I received my Gayatri initiation in New York at 61 2nd Avenue. So I have some stories to share about New York.
Then we're going to go there. So we got it first. Let's look at your first initiation happening the first time where you're going to get your name. He talked about the story, but how did you feel at this? How was your feeling at this moment? And who else was around? Were there others getting initiated as well?
No, it was just me and the 6 who came from San Francisco received their Gayatri initiation also. And my father actually flew up from Chicago. I'm from the same suburb of Chicago that Radhanath Swami is from. And my father flew up, and he was very respectful considered Prabhupada a great learned person, and he didn't really understand what I was doing, but he was very respectful to Srila Prabhupada. And so, yeah, that was just really 2 days after arriving in Montreal. So that, what you're talking about, that anticipation it was just all such a flurry of blessings. And I felt that Prabhupada was the person I'd been searching for my whole life.
What amazing. And then, of course, the yagya happened and everything was there. And this was all new to you, was it not? Because you're 16 years old. This culture must have been different. How did that feel? How did that feel? Because you suddenly, all these initiations happen, which that this is your guru, and that you've already accepted. But then suddenly we're having yagyas happening. We're having this happening. How did that feel as a whole?
Well, I was really so grateful and so much in awe of these wonderful devotees that came with me and introduced me to Srila Prabhupada. They were so caring and so personable. And, we were in Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco. So I was a rebel. And I remember Malati said to me, she said, about the folks in Haight-Ashbury, the hippies, Malati said, they're actually far off. We're actually the ones who are actually far out. So, so she took me under her wing, and I was just really so much in awe of them. They were such beautiful devotees and so caring, so empowered, and so kind. And I really have to say that I was blessed to be able to carry their mood forward when I encountered difficulties in the future situations. So, yeah.
I want to bring on somebody. Ami Anand says, these Prabhupada memoirs are priceless. These stories being shared are so wonderful. Thank you. So just wanted to just put that. Yes, it's nectar to the ears. It's so nice to have this. So now you've got initiated. Did you, because I know Srila Prabhupada was in Montreal still. So how long did you stay in Montreal before moving to New York? And was there any type of pastimes that happened after initiation that you'd like to share?
Yes, I shared those 2 pastimes in Montreal. The one where Prabhupada said, Krishna is mine, he is yours, he is everyone's, that's all. And then when he was speaking about how you should never feel separated from your Guru Maharaj, just like Arjuna, by remembering the instructions. So I'd like to move on to New York, because then I was there for a few weeks with Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada came to New York, and the temple was at 26 2nd Avenue at that time. And yes, so Prabhupada, as you know, Prabhupada had a flat that was just through a courtyard in the back and up 1 flight of stairs. And so there's a beautiful pastime that I shared in the Hare Krishna movie, but I'll share it again. It's very important. So we were up in Prabhupada's apartment, and he was looking into the eyes of each one of us very deeply. And he said, I want each one of you to open a temple somewhere, looking from one to the next to the next. And again, I was only 16 years old and an impetuous person by nature. And I said, even the girls, Swamiji? I was so shocked. Even the girls. And Prabhupada looked at me with a very humorous sparkle in his eyes. And he said, yes, even the girls. And then he said, there is no difference between the boys and the girls when you are sharing Krishna consciousness. So that's a very, very important instruction. How Prabhupada treated his women disciples is very, very important for us to carry forward. Srila Prabhupada was not a stereotyped acharya. He was teaching according to time, place, and circumstance, according to his audience and his realizations of how to share Krishna consciousness in the West and then internationally. So then he began to speak about Janavi Devi, actually. And he talked about how she was leading the whole Krishna consciousness movement and how the Goswamis respected her and honored her. And she was really leading the Krishna consciousness movement at that time. So that was a beautiful instruction. There's another cute story of at 22nd Avenue that I'll share, that I was only 16 and there were other girls there who were the same age as me, and they were very enthusiastic. And when Prabhupada would come into the temple, they were all in high school. I was, as I said, I was a rebel, but they were all attending high school. And when Prabhupada would come into the temple, they would scream and squeal like they were Beatles fans. This is the time of the Beatles, right? And so they were treating Prabhupada like he was a rock star. And when he would come in, they would go, ah, Swamiji, Swamiji. And I was a bit embarrassed by it. And I was wondering how Prabhupada was feeling about this. And it's at a certain point, he called them into his room and he spoke to them and he said, very beautifully, he said, "You are the children of the society, so you must be very grave." And and then they stopped doing that after he instructed them like that. So
Wow.
that was really beautiful. And I wanted to share a beautiful story about the second temple, 61 2nd Avenue, where I received my second initiation. So at this time, of course, you've heard that the first temple, 26 2nd Avenue, was really a tiny, not very nice storefront, really tiny.
Yeah.
And,
matchless gifts, if that's
yes,
right.
matchless gifts. And so then Prabhupada was away, he was traveling, and the devotees from New York were writing to him that they got a new temple. And they were saying, Prabhupada, our new temple is just like a palace. You're going to be so happy. And I was thinking, oh no, it was just another storefront. It was a little bit nicer. It was one floor up, and it had been a tuxedo shop. So there were mirrors around the wall. So it was a little bit more spiffy, but still just a storefront. And so he's writing to them, and I was feeling, oh, what's Prabhupada going to say? What's he going to do? Will he be angry? Will he be disappointed? And so then Prabhupada came there, and he came in and he just looked around the room and he looked at everything. And then he went and sat on his Vyasasan, and he said something so beautiful. He said, I prayed to Krishna to send me one moon. I did not want so many stars. I only wanted one moon. But Krishna has sent me so many moon-like boys and girls. So this is the way he received this, so much gratitude, this rather disappointing second temple storefront. So I think that's a very beautiful story. I wanted to share.
Thank
So
you
much gratitude for even the tiniest little service, tiniest little even intention of service. So yeah.
So Prabhupada knew how to connect with the youngsters, the middle-aged, the elderly. We heard about how we had one Prabhu's mother come, and the way he went straight up to her and spoke. So he had the ability with everyone, and then also to encourage everyone in their services. It doesn't matter how big or small. So thank you so much. So right now you are in New York in the palace, which was the second storefront. And Srila Prabhupada is just now, for those that are joining, has just basically said thank you and calling everyone that they're stars. We were for one moon, and everybody were the
moons.
Moons. That's it. Sorry.
Yes, he said he didn't want so many stars.
He
wanted only one moon. But Krishna sent him so many moon-like boys and girls.
Moon-like boys.
Really beautiful. There's another story I forgot that took place at 26 2nd Avenue. When I asked Srila Prabhupada after one lecture, I said, how did Lord Chaitanya exhibit the opulence of wealth? And because he was, I was thinking Krishna exhibits 6 opulences. And he talked about how he went to East Bengal and collected some riches, but then he explained that Lord Chaitanya's real wealth was his renunciation. So that was also a nice exchange. I wanted to share that one. And then, is it all right if I? Oh, I have another New York story that happened.
Oh my God, we must.
Okay, I'm flipping years here, but I'll share another New York story. And then I'll share some stories from Boston.
Yes, we're heading off to Boston then.
Yeah, so this story took place later when we had a temple in Brooklyn, New York. I was serving as pujari, and it was a Sunday evening, Sunday program. Prabhupada was coming into the temple, and the deities were wearing a very beautiful, Krishna was wearing yellow dhoti, Radharani was wearing a sari type of an outfit, and I had just performed the arti, so I was hiding behind the curtain, and Prabhupada was coming up as he would to offer his respects to the deities. So I was hidden, and Prabhupada came right up to the front, and he was looking at the deities with so much devotion. And then when he started to bow down and offer his obeisances, tears shot out of his eyes, like a syringe, like you see in the paintings of Lord Chaitanya. And the people on the other side of the temple room were all splashed by Srila Prabhupada's tears. And they were looking around. They thought maybe the pujari had thrown the water from the arti. But they were looking around. They were all splashed by Prabhupada's tears. And then Prabhupada just bowed down, and I jumped off the altar, and I told my friend, and we were both taking Prabhupada's tears from the floor and putting them on our heads. And then he just so humbly just walked back to the back of the temple room and began to sing Jaya Radha Madhava. So without trying to make any show, just always trying to suppress his ecstatic emotions. But that was a very beautiful pastime that took place in Brooklyn, New York. And so, yes.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Sometimes that would happen. Devotees would see that sometimes and just quietly chant, and then Prabhupada would come back. So
that's, and now, after this ecstatic time in New York, and I know we skipped some times, but coming back on New York when you were there, the second temple that was there. From there, how did it turn out to go to Boston? Was that?
Well, I was meant to be painting for Prabhupada's books. I wasn't really such a very good painter, but I went to Boston there was a group of young women painting for Prabhupada's books. And so I went there and I joined them. And I'll share another nice story from Boston. So in Boston, Prabhupada was lecturing at different places, different universities. And it seemed as though all I was hearing was Prabhupada saying again and again, just try to become sincere. Just try to become sincere. And finally, after one talk in his room, in his quarters where he was staying, I said, but Prabhupada, how can we become sincere? And he looked at me with big eyes and he said, how do you become a thief? I was so shocked. How do you become a thief? And I said, well, you would associate with thieves and listen to how they talk and learn to talk the way they talk and eat what they eat and talk the way they talk and get their association and practice stealing. And so Prabhupada said, yes, so you must practice becoming sincere. Act as though you are sincere, then you will become sincere. And it's really such a beautiful way of teaching, right? And once in Australia, he was asked the same question, and he said, how do you become a drunkard? So, by associating with drunkards, by practicing drinking, all of those things. And then at that time, he turned to the devotees who were the disciples, and he said, you associate with these people, and then you will become sincere. So very beautiful instruction. So that's a nice story. I wanted to share some other stories from Boston.
Please.
Prabhupada spoke at Harvard University, such a prestigious university. And one of the very intellectual students asked him, what is the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra? So as we know from the offenses to the holy name, we should not explain the glories of the holy name to the unfaithful. So it was very interesting the way Prabhupada answered this question. He said, you are an educated young man. You should know. These are proper nouns. You cannot translate proper nouns. Just like in Sanskrit, my name is Swami Bhaktivedanta. In English also, Swami Bhaktivedanta. Proper nouns are not translated. You should know this. You are an educated young man. So that was very funny. And then also at Harvard University, Prabhupada said something very, very funny. He said, he began his lecture by telling a story. And he said, once in India, it was said that the great Himalayan mountains were going to give birth to an offspring. So all the villagers gathered at the base of the great mountain to see what kind of an offspring the mountain would give birth to. And they were waiting and waiting to see, such great curiosity. And then all of a sudden, so many mice ran out of the mountain. And Prabhupada, such a strange story. And then Prabhupada said, so similarly, Harvard University, such a great university, but it is simply giving birth to hippies.
That's so bold. Wow.
So bold, right? That was really funny. Yeah. That was really
I wonder what the people felt like when Srila Prabhupada, that was the amazing part. He was so bold, but he could be bold. He had this ability to talk in that way that he could do. So that's, I think not many people could do that.
What was very interesting was that Srila Prabhupada would always answer a question according to the mentality of the person who was inquiring. Sometimes he would say one thing, sometimes he would say something very opposite. You know, he would often be asked the question, are you seeing God? And, you know, if that question was asked in a mood of arrogance, he would answer one way. If it was asked in a mood of humility, he would answer in another way. Once he said, you are also seeing God. Every day you see the sun rise, you see the moon rise, you have the taste of water. You are also seeing God. So he was, you know, not stereotyped, as I said before. He was completely dynamic, and he was always reciprocating with the mood in which he was being approached, which I think we should really try to learn from. You know, we talk so much about preach, preach, preach.
Yeah.
But we really need to learn how to hear, and how to really hear from someone before we try to smash them or instruct them. Try to learn what are their interests, what are their needs, what are their concerns. And then we can really touch their hearts in the way, approaching the way Srila Prabhupada did that. So, yeah, so many beautiful stories.
Yeah, and we've had Chudami Dasi saying, unbelievable eye tears, nectar spraying out of Srila Prabhupada. Fortunate disciple recipients, Chudamini Dasi. We've had so many people. Aribam Gitanjali says, Mataji, you are blessed truly. We're blessed that we're hearing this so much.
You are all blessed because you are the people of the future. I'm also a person of the past, and you are all the people of the future. So now it's extremely important that you remember that story, and extremely important that you go to the future and show all the people there how much Krishna loves them. That's what's really important. If you forget everything else that I say today, please remember that. Can I share a story from Delhi? This took place.
Please, yeah, let's fly. It's so nice. We're flying from America. We're going all the way to India. This is great.
Yes. So at this time, there was a temple at Chanakyapuri, which is a diplomatic enclave. And I remember being on walks with Srila Prabhupada, and he was like jamming his walking stick into the ground and, you know, quoting verses about Jagana Gunavritti Sta, that they will all go down. These are these prestigious diplomats, right? But they will go down according to the modes of nature. And so, the story I first wanted to share was at the Delhi Pandal. And I was given the service of being in the sort of what they call the green room.
Mhm.
outside the stage, there's a room where Prabhupada would sit and speak to important guests before walking up onto the stage. So I was brand new to India, and I was in that room and just greeting the guests and sitting there and listening to Prabhupada. So there was one older gentleman who seemed to me to be so pious and so religious. He was dressed in white, a bit like a sadhu, and I thought, oh, such a religious man. And so he said to Srila Prabhupada, he said, Swamiji, please give us your mercy. Give us your mercy. Please give us your mercy. Like that. And I was thinking, oh, he has so much devotion. And Prabhupada was really dismissive of him. As I said, Prabhupada was reading the heart, He was so dismissive. He said, I have already given everything. Still you do not take. He said, it is just like a man who has fallen down a well and he's crying, please give me a rope. Please give me a rope. But still he does not take. So that was really, really a big eye opener for me. And yeah, if I can continue about Delhi a bit. Okay.
Please.
So then also in Delhi, we had this temple at Chanakyapuri. We were in Prabhupada's room. There was a room on the roof of his house. And Srila Prabhupada was speaking. He was not pleased because they had gotten a pandal location that was not in a good area. He had wanted a better, more populated area. So he was very disappointed. And he was speaking about how the temple president had gotten a location where someone would have to cross the 7 mountains and 7 seas to get to this location. So somehow he was reminded of the prayers of Lord Sikshastakam prayers, Baba Maha Devagni Nivapanam. He started speaking from the prayers of Lord Chaitanya. And then he started to quote from this one verse. What was it? It's the 6th verse. And he started to say, Nayanam, Nayanam. I was sitting in the back corner of the room and no one was suggesting the next words, but several times he said that, and there were a lot of big sannyasis in the room and big leaders. And so from my little corner in the back, I said, Nayanam Kaladashridaraya. And Prabhupada, it was so sweet. He said, yes, what is that? And he had me chant the whole verse. And then he said to all the big guns, right? He said, you see, this little girl, she knows, you don't know. And then, I was immediately getting big-headed about that, And then he did it again, and he started quoting from the 7th Sikshastakam verse, Yugayitam Nimishena, and acting like he didn't. And then I said, Yugayitam Nimishena Chaksisa. Yes, what is that? And he had me and he was looking at all the men, you see, you don't know. And I started to get so so proud, right? So then he had to turn around and smash me. So then he started talking about the Ugra Karma civilization, how they have so many horrible enterprises. And he was talking about the steel industry. And he said, just like there are so many gigantic crucibles. And I went, from my little back corner, I went, And he said, oh, you know what is crucible? And I really didn't know what a crucible was at that time. And he was talking about the gigantic forms in which they melt molten steel. Yeah. So I should have said, no, Srila Prabhupada, I don't know what is a crucible. But instead I said, well, isn't it one of those little rooms where a monk meditates? I was thinking of a cubicle, right?
Yes.
So Prabhupada he just, again, so dismissive. He just tossed his head like, what a foolish answer. He just tossed his head like that. And he said, does anyone know what is crucible? And then Brahmananda Swami said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, a crucible is one of those forms in which they melt molten steel for the steel industry. And then Prabhupada nodded. He said, yes, that is crucible. And he looked at me very dismissively, just to put me in my place. And he said, yes, that is crucible.
That is so So we got, and so you're in Delhi, and I think you also Mayapur. When you're in Mayapur as well, you had some pastimes there as well, if I'm correct.
Yes, I'll tell a story. We're coming to the end of the time, right? Actually, one story before I tell my little story of Mayapur, I want to tell a beautiful story about my god sister Kausalya. And I also wanted to mention, if you're curious about stories with Prabhupada's women disciples, there's a beautiful book that's just been published called A Bond of Love, Srila Prabhupada and his daughters. So I suggest that you get that, and you can read many, many beautiful stories. So my god sister Kausalya, she had memorized, this is in India also, she had memorized all the prayers, all the mantras of Ishopanishad. Thank you for putting the picture up. Yeah. So she had memorized all of the mantras of Ishopanishad. So one evening, there were over 100 guests there, and Srila Prabhupada asked Kausalya to chant the prayers of Ishopanishad. And she chanted all 18 prayers of Ishopanishad. And Prabhupada was so pleased with her. And he said, "You have done very well, very well." And he said, "Come here." And she came up to Prabhupada's Vyasasan, and she was starting to offer obeisances on the floor. And he said, "Come here." And he pulled her up and put her head right on his feet. And he was rubbing her head and rubbing her back. And "You have done very well, very well." So that's such a beautiful story to share.
Wow.
I wanted you all to hear that story.
Yes, definitely. This is absolute nectar, and this story is in the Bond of Love, the book that we're seeing right now in front of you right now. So please do check that out.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Wow.
I can share another story, but maybe you have some questions.
There was a question come that I can see specifically about, because we talked about the 6, and we talked about and I said 6.5 is there was a little baby. Whatever happened to baby Saraswati? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. She grew up in the Krishna consciousness movement and then went on to do other things in her life. But she said that sometimes she dreams of Srila Prabhupada. So she is eternally one of Prabhupada's eternal associates. And maybe you've heard of how Prabhupada would say, anyone can preach, because she would fearlessly go up to an adult and say, "Do you know who is Krishna?" And then they would say, "No, who is Krishna?" She would say, "He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead." So wow. Prabhupada loved her so much. So yes, she's an eternal associate of Srila Prabhupada, just like her parents, Malati and Shamsundar.
Thank you so much. And I want to come on to yourself, actually, because those that may not know, there is an amazing website called www.urbandevi.com. And this website that you've got an autumn retreat happening.
Yeah.
And that's on Saturday, 17th of October. It's on here right now. So check that out. Can I ask the question, what inspired you to, number one, we got urbandevi.com. I spoke a little bit at the start, but some of your thoughts, how it's connected to Srila Prabhupada, and then these retreats, why you would like to do these.
Yes, I really wanted everyone, all of you people of the future, to know how Srila Prabhupada actually treated his women disciples. Prabhupada said there is no difference between the boys and the girls. Once in Calcutta, Malati might have shared this story. The men were saying, "Oh, the ladies should move out of the temple." And Prabhupada, they were saying that it's not good to associate with women. Prabhupada was silent during the whole walk. And then when he came back to the temple, all the ladies were there having cooked the breakfast and cleaned his room and cleaned the temple. And Prabhupada looked at them and looked back at the men, and he said, "If you associate with these women, you will go back to Godhead." So I really wanted everyone to know what Prabhupada's actual mood was in spreading the Krishna consciousness all over the world. And so I think it's very important. Kiba vipra, kiba nasi, sudrakene noi, ye Krishna tattva veti se guru hai. So this is Prabhupada's mood. Share Krishna consciousness. Anyone can take to Krishna consciousness. Anyone can receive Krishna consciousness without discrimination. Srila Prabhupada was an unprecedented acharya in this age, and he was preaching according to time, circumstance, and his audience. I wanted everyone to know that. And that's what I try to share in Urban Devi, to try to inspire the women devotees and help them understand Prabhupada's mood. And in this Urban Devi retreat that's coming up, we have six women presenting. Sorry for the men, but it's all for ladies. I'm going to be speaking on, our theme is autumn, and I'm going to be speaking on finding deeper grounding in the roots of bhakti. We have Ram Baru, who's a wonderful teacher. She started an initiative called Karuna Care. She's going to be speaking on autumn, a time to pause and check in with ourselves. And we have others. So it's all day on Saturday the 17th, and you can dip in and dip out and attend whatever you'd like to attend. So please join us, all of you ladies.
Oh, thank you so much. And this is something, please do, the ladies out there that, please do check out urbandevi.com. You'll find out more information. This retreat is one thing, but there is much, much, much more on that site. So, and this is the brainchild from the founder herself. We've seen her in front of us right now, Her Grace Rukmini Prabhu. So please do check that out. And some people have been asking a question, and I'll bring it up. The author, yes, this author of the book that you mentioned, which was, of course, The Bond of Love.
Yeah.
And I believe that because I did have that person on. So, but I will hear it from yourself. Who was that person?
Well, I think it's a compilation. So were you saying that it was Malati Devi?
She was on there as well. Yes.
Yeah.
She was,
but it's a compilation. It's the memories of many, many different
yes,
women who are disciples of Srila Prabhupada.
So please do check. If you want one, and the question came after, where do I get this book from? Go online. You can get it from Amazon. There's all the different places that are actually doing it from, and your local BPT will also have these books. So I'm seeing here as well, just Sapna Wadwa said, feels so good to hear about Srila Prabhupada, direct interactions with his disciples. You have really been fantastic today. Thank you so much for helping us to connect with Srila Prabhupada in a way that some of us were not known before. So on behalf of everyone online, I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any more time? Because I have one more story, if there is more.
Always. What a nice way to finish off with another story from you.
Okay, I'll share the Mayapur story. If you read the book Bond of Love, there's so many stories of lady disciples cleaning Prabhupada's room. So many of us have amazing stories of cleaning Prabhupada's room. So I was cleaning Prabhupada's room in Mayapur, and he had a very beautifully decorated box on his desk that had some sweets in it. And on the floor next to his desk, there was one of those kind of cardboard boxes from the sweet shop, and it was all soggy with rasgulla juice, and it was kind of a mess. So I thought, well, there's this nice box on the desk, so I'll take this box of sweets that's making a bit of a mess. I'll take this down to the kitchen, and they can put these sweets on Prabhupada's plate from the kitchen. So then Prabhupada came back. We would all scurry out of the room before Prabhupada came back. And Prabhupada came back, and he didn't miss anything. He was observant to the nth degree. So he said, "Who has taken my sweets?" So the servants were scurrying around. Who took the sweets? Who cleaned Prabhupada's room? Who took the sweets? So finally they found out that I was the one who had cleaned the room, and they found me, and Prabhupada wanted me to come there. And I came there, and just like a sweet, loving grandfather, Prabhupada was laughing and his eyes twinkling, and he said, "Oh, you have taken my sweets?" And right while I was offering obeisances, trying to come up and trying to answer. And I said, I explained what I had done, that I took them to the kitchen. Prabhupada's beloved godbrother, Anand Prabhu, was cooking for him at that time. So I said, I took them to the kitchen so Anand Prabhu could put them on your plate. And Prabhupada said, "Oh, you have not eaten any?" And I said, "Oh, no, Srila Prabhupada, I didn't eat any. I took them to the kitchen." And he said, "Go get them. I want to see." But he was laughing. And so I had to run to the kitchen downstairs and run up with the cardboard box of sweets. And then Prabhupada counted. And he said, yes, you have not eaten any. That is all right. So that was such a charming story by Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, what a nice way to just, we just had a few little questions coming in, and I think it'd be just nice if I can just bring that up. So, Aribam Gitanjali, she says, sorry if I say the names wrong. I do apologize, everyone. Mataji, how can I get in touch with you? So
please go to urbandevi.com. And
there you go. There's the plug. There's the plug. www.urbandevi.com. Go to urbandevi.com. Get in touch.
And please join our retreat.
Yes. So check it. Saturday, 7th of October. That's only a week away. 17th, right? That's only, it's today is the 10th. So only a week away. That's it. My God. So please do check it out. Register yourself to avoid disappointment. And I just want to say thank you so much. I'm sure this won't be the last time we'll be talking to you. And I want to say thank you for sharing your heartfelt stories with Srila Prabhupada. And it's helped us, and especially me, I feel like it's helped me to understand the part of Srila Prabhupada better and have that more appreciation for our dear Srila Prabhupada. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Such an honor. Thank you very, very much.
And everybody, thank you for staying on. Please do share this video. It's going to be available live in the platforms that you're seeing. After live, it'll go into recorded mode. So share it. Let's get more people in the world to hear about Srila Prabhupada. You're hearing from direct disciples. You know, we're very fortunate to have them on this planet. So share this. Let's spread the whole world with these pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. So on behalf of the Prabhupada Memoirs team, everybody, thank you. And until next time, Hare Krishna.
Hare